Hi, my name is Joshua Wenner. I'm a master coach, a corporate strategist, and an entrepreneur. And today on Business Rockstars Academy, the training is going to be focused on creating and crafting a vision for your future and how your thoughts, your words, and your actions, the power that they have on your future. I'd like to start off first with just a little story about a man named Henry Ford. You know, he started off as a entrepreneur. He grew up on a small farm. And he had a dream of becoming an entrepreneur. He started out working for other people, working in many different jobs, fascinated by his passion. He liked to tinker with things. He used to take apart watches. And he was very fascinated by the mechanics of how things worked. And he was right at the era when cars were starting to come out, wheeled, driving machines. It was more horse and carriage before that. And he was on the forefront of where that was heading. He saw where the future was going. He had a vision for his future. And so he immediately saw the opportunity. He created his first vehicle, his first prototype of a moving vehicle, and he had some investors to invest in his first idea. His first idea didn't actually work. It was a little too expensive. They ran out of funding, and ultimately the investors wanted to take the business in a different direction than he did, and it ultimately failed. After the business failed, Henry Ford decided at that moment that he was not going to take on investors in the future. He decided instead that he had a powerful vision of a moving vehicle that would work for everyone. You see, his investors wanted the vehicle only for the wealthy. And at that time, a wealthy vehicle cost around $2,000. So only wealthy people could afford a vehicle. He wanted to make a vehicle for the everyday person, a vehicle that could be under $1,000 that everybody could afford to drive. So again, he worked tirelessly to finally create a new vehicle. And there came a moment when he was actually able to race another driver. So there was something in his town that came up, and he created a vehicle, and he actually raced one of the top drivers in his town and beat him. And it was a way that he got himself on the map. He drew a lot of attention to himself, and he was able to raise some additional funding, but where he ran the majority of ownership. And that's when he created the Model T. He built that up to 1,000 cars a day. The rest is history of what he's done. He's now transformed the way our culture lives and breathes. And they say his net worth would be worth about $200 billion. $200 billion. So he went from a entrepreneur to an entrepreneur to one of the wealthiest individuals and one of the game changers that's changed humanity. And I just wanted to start off with the vision that he had and how he got there. So today on this training, I'm just going to ask that you do some active participation where you engage your nervous system. Research shows that if you just sit there passively and you don't really engage, you only retain about 20% of information. However, if you do a couple key things like, maybe liking, commenting, maybe even taking notes, if you got a notepad and you could take some notes, whatever it takes to engage your nervous system, research shows that by engaging your nervous system, that you're going to retain up to about 80% of your content today. So we ask that you, like, comment, engage with your fellow entrepreneur, do whatever it takes to make sure you're staying active so you can retain the information today. Also, I'd like to say that if you resonate with what I'm saying, light it up. Light up the likes, light up the love, light up the comments, engage and have some fun with this. So today's focus is about crafting the vision for your future. The power that your mindset has, not only on your life, but on your body, on the physiology of the body. And to give an example, there was something called the Vendetti scientific research experiment, where doctors started to notice that patients that had incredible amounts of pain in their body, that the doctor would walk up to give them pain. And when the doctor was present, the patient noticed, oh, I'm getting a relief in pain. And they actually noticed a relief. When they had him hooked up to a machine and there was no doctor present, they would be asking the doctor to give them pain. So they thought this was really interesting, and they actually set up a study. And they tested two different groups of patients. One group of patients, they would have a doctor present. The other group of patients, they would just have the machine. And what they noticed is over a specific amount of time, it was overwhelmingly the amount of evidence that showed when a doctor was present, the patients noticed that they had a reduction in pain. And when there was just an automated machine, they would always complain and say that they were in pain and they needed somebody to administer the pain medication. So it was the first study that they noticed there was actually a reduction in pain just by the placebo of thinking somebody was there. In addition, they did the same study. They noticed a reduction with hypertension, with Parkinson's, and also with anxiety. Dr. Alicia Crum says that mindset is just a lens or a frame of mind which orients an individual to a particular set of associations and expectations. So think about it as our mindset is simply the way that we expect life to be based on our own expectations of what it's supposed to be. They did another study to prove this even further, where they took 84 different housekeepers and that were working on hotels all across the country. And they looked at them and, you think of a housekeeper, they're busy, they're moving, they're on the go, they're making beds, they're cleaning, they're using their body, and they're busy. So they're typically burning about 160 to 240 calories a day. So they did a study and they asked them, they said, do you exercise? 2/3 of them said no. So 2/3 of them said that they almost get zero exercise. They said, I'm way too busy. I just have no time for exercise. And they say, okay, well, in your whole day, do you get any exercise? 2/3 said none. So they wondered what would happen if they just changed their mindset. Didn't change their behavior at all, just changed their mindset. So what they did is they took these women, they divided them into 2 groups, and they did full analysis. They measured blood pressure, they took their measurements, they asked them a whole number of questions like, how much do you work? Do you like your work? And they kind of set it up ahead of time. And then what they did is they took half the group and they educated them. They only spent 15 minutes, and they educated them that their work was actually excellent exercise. For the general surgeon's warning of how much exercise you should get a day, they were actually above it. So all they did is educate for 15 minutes, one group study that says that the exercise that you get just from your normal course of activity is above the average. That's all they did. In measuring the results of the study, they found that with the group that they educated for 15 minutes, they all dropped body fat, they dropped their weight, they dropped blood pressure, and they had increased job satisfaction at work. So again, this is just to lay the foundation that the placebo effect, what we believe, our mindset has power. Our mindset is so powerful that in these 84 women, not changing any behavior, just by changing our mindset, their mindsets, they were able to lose weight, lower blood pressure, and increase job satisfaction. So in laying the foundation for our future and crafting our future, it's important that you focus on your mindset and your beliefs. So crafting your future, the power of goals. One of my first mentors, I went to go see, and there was a mentor. I grew up in Reno, Nevada, and I had a mentor that I sought out that ran a casino, and it took me a while to get a hold of her. It was a woman. I found out who she was. I was interested in studying how she thought, her mindset. So I figured out who she was. Took me a while to build the courage to go ask her and find how I was going to communicate with her. But I reached out. I got a hold of her. I set a meeting. I finally got in front of her. I'm sitting across from her at the table at the meeting. And I sat down. I was so excited. And I said, I'm really excited to meet with you. Thank you for your time. I'd just like to learn from you. And she said, okay, great, Josh. She said, why don't you show me your list of goals? Once you show me your goals, I'll sit through and talk through the ones that I think I can help you most with. Well, of course, I didn't have any goals at that time. So I said, I don't have any goals. And she said, well, Josh, if you don't have any goals, then most likely I can guess your bank account by probably a couple $100. And, she took a guess that I probably only had a couple $100 at that time, and she was right. It was my first kind of big wake-up call in the power of goal setting. And I really couldn't get the value I needed from that mentor because I had no goals to work on. So today's focus is going to be like, first you got to have a plan. First you got to have a vision. First you got to have a goal. They say that a goal is just a dream with a deadline. So in order to set goals, there's really 2 ways to do them. One is with apprehension, like worry, stress. Is life going to continue to be the way that it's always been, and frustration? Or with anticipation, with excitement, where you focus at your vision, pulling you towards it because you're so excited to make it happen? Or you're kind of going, man, is it going to continue to be this way? 2 ways to move towards goals. Guess how most people face the future? They face the future with apprehension. with worry, with stress. I'm sure you can think of somebody who's always complaining, how life never shows up on their terms, or life is always frustrating, and you wonder why they continue to get the same frustration. The biggest thing is if you find yourself frustrated, if you find yourself kind of, overwhelmed, stressed, and finding resistance to taking action, chances are that you don't have a strong enough vision. You don't have a strong enough future of pulling you towards it. If you don't make plans of your own, you start to fall into other people's plans. So I envision it like this. Think of it if you're a leaf. If you're a leaf just floating, and as an entrepreneur, there's so many things that you could do. If you're not crystal clear with your plan, if you don't have this vision that's pulling you towards it so you can focus over the course of your day, you become like this leaf where you're floating around doing a bunch of different tasks, and most likely you're going to end up on other people's tasks and other people's plans. Guess what other people plan for you? Not much. If you just keep your fingers crossed hoping that something's going to happen, guess what you're going to get? Not much. If you just focus on helping other people achieve their goals and not clear on your plan, you're going to end up with not much. So, it all starts by creating something that you can count on. And you got to count on yourself. You got to face the future with the plan, with the focus, with the conviction, with the mindset that is excited about what's going to happen and pulling you towards it. So listen to me here. This is probably the most important thing I'm going to say. I'm telling you this, and I got this from an amazing man who I'll tell you about in just a second. The price is easy if the promise is clear. I'll say it again. The price is easy if the promise is clear. A man named Jim Rohn said this. If your vision is clear and powerful, if your promise, if you will, is clear and powerful, then the price is easy if the vision is clear. The price seems almost too much to pay if the promise is not clear. So the promise of the future, the promise of that vision, the promise that Henry Ford had in order to take those risks, he had such a big promise in order to pull him through it. Asking yourself, what are your visions? What is your vision? What is your promise? What is your promise why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Is it because you want to make a certain amount of money? Is it because you want more freedom? Is it because you want, the freedom to decide where you want to go and what you want to do? Do you want to make a better future for your family? What other kind of visions do you have? What kind of vision do you have for maybe your body, your physiology? What about for your family life? So your spiritual goals, the visions that you create, the promise that you create is what's going to allow you to pull towards it. And only you have the power to do that in your hands. And so here's just a simple exercise to take action right now. Because if we don't do it now, it never happens. So here's a simple goal setting exercise. Just decide what you want and write it down. Either pause this right now, or if you're watching this live, go ahead and pull out a pen and paper. And as soon as this is over, take 5 minutes and just start to write down a list of goals and things you want. If you've already been doing this, you're already probably getting results in your life. It may be good to do it in an area you're not. So maybe you crush it at your business, but your relationship is struggling. Maybe you're excellent at the home life. Maybe you're great being a husband or a father, but your business is struggling. Maybe you're good at building somebody else's business and you have an idea for your business, but you're just not making progress on it. So sit down and make a list. What's going to pull you towards that vision? Why is it worth it to move through that tready water that's uncomfortable, that's covered with maybe frustration, heartache, failure, in order to get through it, to get to your vision? Why is it worth it? So just create a list of that promise that's going to pull you towards it. And I recommend keeping that journal with you. Maybe do a vision with your family. Maybe you sit down with your spouse or your kids and create an exciting future, a promise of why you're willing to put your family through the heartache and the frustration of being an entrepreneur, because it's not easy. It's the sleepless nights. It's working 5 to 7 days a week. When the business goes down, you're working through it. While you may see your friends having fun, playing, you're working on your vision. And if that promise is clear, I promise you it'll be worth it. The price will be worth it if the promise is clear. So again, in order to get there, we have to align our thoughts and our words and our actions. So I have a challenge for you. If all the possibilities are available, if every possibility is available, why don't you set a goal of becoming a millionaire? Here's why. I had a mentor that did this to me, and I'm so grateful that he did. I had a mentor when I was young, and he sat down with me and he said, Josh, he said, one of the greatest lessons you can ever learn is to put a price on becoming a millionaire. And he said, set a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, not for what the money will give you, but for what you'll become, for who you'll become in going after that goal. So set a goal, set a promise, set something that inspires you to move towards it, because what you'll become, the frustrations that you'll have to break through, the person that you'll become to achieve that goal is what you get, because it's not about the money. Set a goal that's going to stretch you for what it'll take to achieve it. The better vision for the future. I was talking to a client recently. The most she'd ever made is $12,000. And she found an opportunity to create a business, and she got up to $500,000 a year. So going from only making $12,000 a year to making $500,000 a year, everything changed. Her husband's now working at home. They're able to do a lot more activities they do with their family. She's become such an empowered, strong, embodied woman that takes care of her husband, that takes care of her family, and has a business with employees. And she's become this powerhouse of a woman, but she had to become it. She had to create that vision first, and a vision that compelled her to move towards it. So my major question to ask you is not what you're getting, but what is it that you're becoming that makes you valuable? So on your quest to become an entrepreneur, maybe you've reached a plateau. Maybe you're at a stage where your business is massively successful and it's made $1 million a year, or $5 million a year, or $10 million a year, or $100 million, but you're comfortable. Maybe you've reached a point of comfortability and there's no real push. How do you create a bigger vision to push through that comfort zone to inspire you to greatness? Have you become comfortable? Are you just easy now that it's become easy? So whether you're going through the struggles of starting a business and getting it off the ground, maybe you're at the phase of business where you made it too easy on yourself because success has made you lazy. So check in and create a more empowering vision. My mentor challenged me to become a millionaire, and I tell you, it challenged me. It challenged me, it created visions, it created missions, and it inspired me. I was lucky enough by 28, a business that I had started, our biggest month was 150 grand. We'd gotten to the 7-figure mark in our business by 28. And at the time, a year later, 29, I had to go through losing everything. So going from having my goal to losing everything, I'll tell you, even though I lost the money in the account, what I became was I learned how to create it again. I learned how to fish, if you will. I didn't learn how to just spend the money or what the money made of me, but I learned how to become it. So I challenge you, set a goal or set a promise for a future that'll inspire you to become more so you could do it again if you lose it. Because a lot of entrepreneurs take big risks and they end up losing everything. But if you know how to make it, you can make it again. So again, what's not important is the money. What's important is the person you become along the way. So next, first we started off with creating a strong vision for our future. We start off with goal setting. We start off with the power of placebo. So again, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Walt Disney said, first, I believe it before I can see it. Most people have to see it before they can believe it. But most entrepreneurs believe it first before they can see it. So the power of our thoughts and our words and the power that they have on our future. So I want to tell you a quick story. I'm sure you've heard this before. It's a story about two wolves. And there was a grandfather, and he was talking to a young man. And he said, son, there's a battle going on between all of us. And there's this battle between two wolves. There's one wolf that's focused on anger, jealousy, lack, fear, resentment. And there's this other wolf over here. And it's focused on abundance and gratitude and joy and love and peace and excitement. And just grateful to be alive, grateful for this gift of life. So we have these two wolves, and there's this massive battle going on between them inside all of us. And the boy said, which wolf wins? And the grandfather said, the one you feed. So I say that as a story leading into the power of our thoughts and our words, meaning we all have two wolves. We all have this internal struggle going on beside of us. But my question is, which wolf are you listening to? Which wolf are you feeding? Are you feeding the wolf that's inspiring you towards your dreams? Or are you feeding the wolf that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you doing the same thing you've always been doing by using your stories, your limitations, your lack of why you can't do it? Is that what's leading you forward, or the story of what you can do? So Louise Hay says, every thought we think and every word we speak is creating our future. So think about that. Every thought you think and every word you say is creating your future. So essentially, you're creating your own life by what you're thinking, by the power of your thoughts, by the power of your words, and it's not easy to accept. To start becoming responsible, starting to become aware of what you say and what you do. Most of us are just so thinking, and reacting, that we don't pay attention to it. So we need to start becoming aware of what we're thinking, what we're saying. What's the internal dialogue that you're having? What's that internal story? What are you saying? Are your words, thoughts, and actions congruent? Or is there a lack of congruency inside of yourself? Analogy of, a lot of people go to church and they read a Bible every day. And when they condition this Bible over and over again, and then sometimes you're driving at a road and you stop at a stoplight and you hear Bible verses, or you hear stuff because you've conditioned that into your mindset. So it sounded interesting, and I was open to it. So I sat down, I wrote a couple affirmations that were focused on having abundance in my life, and I practiced for a month. I sat down every day, I woke up, I read these affirmations first thing in my day, 3 to 4 times. I would say them, I was excited, and I didn't see the results. So I kind of thought, you know what, this is just a bunch of crap. They came out with The Secret. I was like, it's just a bunch of people sitting around meditating, saying, bring me wealth. And I just thought it was kind of junk. And I had another mentor. I'm so grateful for mentors. Mentors can I feel like if we're a car driving down the road, a mentor helps us see around us what we can't always see. It's kind of like the rearview mirror. It's kind of the side windows, and they help us reflect back to us what we can't always see because they've kind of been there and done that. And I had a mentor sit down and say, Josh, do you use affirmations? And because I said I don't think these affirmations work. I'm not getting the results in my life. And he said, how many times a day do you tell yourself these positive affirmations for creating more abundance, more wealth in your life? And I got all excited. I said, I sat down every day for a month and I read them 3 to 4 times. I said, okay, how many times a day do you tell yourself poverty affirmations? I said, what do you mean? And he said, how many times a day do you think about not having enough money? Or do you think about lack? Or do you think about lack or stress or worry about not having enough versus excitement and the affirmations about having money and being grateful that you already have it? And it was my first time of kind of a wake-up call of realizing how many times a day I was unconsciously thinking negative thoughts, poverty thoughts, blaming thoughts of all these other things about the day. So what I began to do is I began to keep a rubber band. And I brought this as a metaphor. And so when I would notice I would think of a negative list, I would snap the rubber band and I would start to condition these positive affirmations. And I would write them down. Tony's a big advocate. Tony Robbins is a big advocate of affirmations, incantations. In almost every book you read, that's the secret that he tells you his blueprint is he would condition his mind every day in these powerful affirmations of who he needed to become, conscious language. So I sat down and realized I hadn't been giving myself conscious language. So what I did is I'd go through the day. If I caught myself in lack, which would happen quite throughout the day, I would notice my bank account was low because at that time I didn't know how to save. And I would see it getting low. And I would sit down and I'd snap it down. And as I would snap the rubber band, I would start to repeat positive incantations. For example, I might say, I'm guided, or I'm led, or I'm always at the right place at the right time to meet the right person. No matter what I do, I prosper. Or I'll give you one of Tony's. This is an affirmation I got from Tony Robbins. And I use it. So feel free to use any of these. I can also, if you're a member, one of the Business Rockstars members, I'll post a list of incantations and affirmations in our private Facebook group page for you to look at. But I take other people's and I make my own. So here's one I got from Tony Robbins. He says, God's wealth is circulating in my life. His wealth flows to me in avalanches of abundance. All my needs, desires, goals, and dreams are met instantaneously by infinite intelligence, for I am one with God and God is everything. So whether or not you're religious, whatever your belief is, tweak it, change it, make it your own. But every time I would feel lack, I would snap the rubber band and I would repeat that incantation over and over again throughout my day. So again, the point of this is, again, to recap, create a powerful vision for your future. After you create a powerful vision, make sure you understand the power of your mindset, the power of your belief. Create some goals to move forward on. Now take those goals and make forward incantations and affirmations that are excitement, that are going to pull you towards those goals, almost as if they're already happening and you're already grateful for that happening. So making positive statements about your life and to support your vision. So, and then start to be grateful for the progress. Start to be grateful. Start to look at what is happening, even if it's little. Today I was stuck at a stoplight and then the next 3 ones were green. Or today I got 1 positive call. Even though 5 people told me no, I got 1 yes. So start to build momentum on the progress you're making. And, look in your own eyes. Start to love yourself. I know it sounds kind of corny. At least I thought this when I first saw it. But I think our business, 80% of psychology and success in business is mindset, 20% of the actions. So in order to become more successful in business, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe you can do it. You have to believe your value. You have to believe your worth. So if you have to stand up in the mirror and look in the mirror and tell yourself you're enough, tell yourself you love yourself, whatever it takes to break through. Because again, I'm going to say Jim Rohn's quote, if the promise is clear, then the price is worth it. So you'll do whatever it takes. You'll get up and do affirmations. You'll do up and snap your wrist. You'll write them down. You'll look at them. You'll do whatever it takes if that promise is big enough. So if you're not taking action, your promise isn't big enough, just to recap. So getting into attitude and actions. And this is the last part, and then we're going to wrap up. So this is important. The day you accept full responsibility for your actions is the day that you move from becoming a child to an adult. I'm going to say that again. The day you accept full responsibility for your actions is the day you move from a child to an adult. I would suggest or invite you to practice not blaming things for why you're not getting the results in your life. I used to blame taxes. I used to, like I said, I used to have this list. I remember the day that I used to create a list of everything that wasn't working, why I wasn't getting the results. I used to blame taxes. I used to blame the government. I used to blame politics. I used to blame my business partners, mentors, that I didn't have the training, that I didn't have the knowledge, that I didn't have the education, that I wasn't from a family with a affluent background, that I didn't have an entrepreneurship environment that I grew up in. I blame my neighbors. I blame my friends. I blame my employees. I blame the economy, the community, everyone. And then all of a sudden, another mentor came along. I've been so grateful for my mentors because if without them, I don't know, I'd still be probably backed up. And one day they came along to me and they said, hey, Josh, why aren't you where you'd like to be? You've talked about becoming this amazing entrepreneur who was going to massively change the world, because I always believed in my heart that I had a mission, that I had a purpose. And I believe with entrepreneurship, you have a chance, like with Henry Ford. If you look what he did, he revolutionized society. He took it where it was hard to get from A to B, and he made it easy. He changed people's lives. So my true belief is entrepreneurship is where you can change an infrastructure. You can make the system better. You can improve the quality of people's lives, create freedom for people, and create freedom for yourself. And so he said, Josh, you have this powerful mission, right? You want to change lives. You want to create freedom. You want to be this entrepreneur. You want to become this millionaire. Well, why aren't you where you'd like to be? And I said, well, I got this big list. I pulled out my list of reasons and I started to read it off. I got the taxes, it's the economy, it's my business partner, it's my, it's the teachers, it's the environment. And I started to go all the way through this list, and I showed him all the reasons why I wasn't where I wanted to be. And he looked at me, he leaned in, and he said, Josh, there's a big problem with your list. And he said, you're not on it. And I was like, I see where this is heading. So I got a fresh piece of paper out. I created a new list, and I wrote in big letters, all I wrote was me. And so, you see, I used to blame everything for why I wasn't getting the results. And once I took that day where I started to take full responsibility and accept that I was the reason, whether I got results or I didn't, that changed everything. So I'm going to share an important philosophy with you here. So I invite you to take this on, try it out, see if it resonates. It's not what happens that determines the quality of life. It's what you do that changes everything. I'm going to say it again. It's not what happens that determines the quality of your life. It's what you do that changes everything. Back to my example earlier with Henry Ford. With Henry Ford, when he created this company and all of a sudden it looked like the business went under. So he could have blamed his investors. He could have blamed the economy because everybody else started creating cars and got ahead of him. He could have blamed everything else, but he took responsibility. He focused on his vision. He found a new plan, and he found a way to break through. So he kept focused on that vision. So, if you fall out of the sky, if you fall down, if you're an entrepreneur, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of when, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. So if you start to become okay with failure, you learn that it's just teaching you where to go, right? But if you focus on that vision, focus on the progress you're making, keep finding a vision to pull your way through it. So it used to be that you could hit a 0, right? If you missed and hit the ground, you'd hit a 0. Now we have debt. So sometimes when you miss and hit the ground, you don't just hit a 0, you can fall like way down, right? You can fall way down there. I did, and it's okay. You can get back up. We live in an economy where if you do fall, dust yourself off, create a new vision for your future. Look how this has made you stronger, because I'll tell you, when you fail, sometimes the failures give you more strength. They give you more wisdom than your successes. I have a number of friends, and I've at times become successful where sometimes success blinds you because you can't really see the pitfalls. But when you take a hit, you definitely learn those lessons. So look at your life where you've failed. Look at those as honor badges where you've learned so that you can get back up, create a new vision, and get moving forward. So disappointments are not special gifts reserved for the poor. You know, it's not the weather. I want to share one more story because I find that the metaphors or stories really help me ingrain this in. So on this concept of our attitude, on this concept of it's not what happens, it's what we do that makes a difference, I want to share a story about 2 women. You know, 2 women wake up one day, 2 women entrepreneurs, and there's a rainstorm. You know, there's this like crazy windstorm going on, rain, wind, this whole thing going on. They're probably not in LA because LA's always got warm weather. So they're in some part of the country, you know, maybe they're in Oregon, right? Crazy weather, it's raining, maybe they're in Seattle. Crazy weather, everything's going on. 2 women entrepreneurs wake up. One woman wakes up, she looks out the window, she sees this crazy storm and she says, wow, what a storm. With weather like this, man, I can't go out there. Who could expect me to go out in a storm like this? Nobody's going to be out. Everybody's going to be indoors. You know, today's not a day to go out and drum up business for myself. I got this great product, but nobody else is going to be out, so let me stay in today. I'm just going to stay home. So she stays home. The same morning, another woman wakes up. She looks outside the window, and she says, wow, what a storm. You know, but she says something different. She says, with weather like this, what a great day to go outside and get some clients. You know, probably everybody's going to be at home. So it's going to be easy to knock on doors. I'm going to catch a lot of people. And you know what? Everybody else is going to be, all my competitors are going to be at home in the storm. So I'm going to get an advantage. So the reason I share that is there is a difference in the way life works out. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do. So here's my challenge to you. Rock stars, business rock stars, starting today, what are you going to do to make a difference? So regardless of what's happened in your life, what action are you going to take to get the ball moving forward? You know, so if let's say you're in a startup business, and let's say you've been stuck. Let's say you have an idea to start your business, and you just haven't gotten started. Or let's say you have gotten started, and you failed a couple times, and you feel frustrated or overwhelmed. You know, what can you do today? How can you make a list and create a new promise for your future that'll inspire you to take action? You know, if you are a successful entrepreneur, maybe you got a company that's very lucrative right now, and you become comfortable. I challenge you to create a more inspiring vision. Maybe make it about how you're going to give more. Maybe make a vision about spending more quality time for your family. What could you do to grow your business, to move the needle that'll inspire you to kick it up a notch, that'll get you outside your comfort zone and into a place to making a difference? So, or maybe it's impersonal. You know, maybe we're coming up against the holidays. What could you do to love your family more? What could you do to make a difference for your partner? What could you do to sculpt your body and honor this gift of a vehicle we've been given to experience life? You know, what could you do to honor your spiritual connection? So again, there's a balance. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So starting today, what can you do to make a difference? I challenge you to take action now. Do something. You know, get down, make a list, reach out and put a phone call in. And if you're listening, I challenge you to write some comments. You know, have the courage to write some comments about your business. What's one thing you could do in your business to take action today? Could you call 5 people? Could you sit down with your team and take an action step? If you have an employee that's clogging it up, that you know you should fire, that you've been resisting, sit down and have the conversation and let them go. Like, what can you do in your business to move the needle forward? I challenge you to write it in the comments. One thing you can do to take action to get to the next level. So, again, I've mentioned a lot of times as business rock stars, we're here to help you get to the next level, whether you're starting, growing, or funding your business. And a coach or mentor, again, they help you see the blind spots. So one thing that we want to help you do, whether you're starting your business or growing your business, every time we do these trainings at Business Rockstars Academy, if you're a member, if you're a Business Rockstars member, we have a private Facebook community where you can ask your questions and we can actually jump up live. We'll throw you up on the screen. We'll ask you questions. So wherever you're at, in order to get to the next level, we'll throw you up on the screen. And if you're in the private Business Rockstars community, you can ask questions, get your question answered, and you can watch these videos later. So again, if you're a Business Rockstars member, go ahead and ask your question, and we'll see you in the private community soon. Stay tuned, and we'll see you either next week or in a couple weeks to do another Business Rockstars Academy training.